Okay, we're going to have a look here at fitting the cable. We've got some speaker cable here which has got a black and a grey wire. It's we're going to use this to connect our speaker here to our circuit board. So if we take a look on the screen print on our circuit board, if you can see that, it says speaker, power and input, and these have a plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus. So these are our inputs and outputs. There's also holes here that we'll look at for sort of strain relief to stop the cable pulling out. So we need to fit our speaker cable to our circuit board here on this one where it says speaker, and our circuit board is going to go through here. Our wires are going to go through here, which is a tight fit, and it's meant to be a tight fit, and they're going to poke into the holes here and here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to split the two wires apart. I just used a pair of side cutters and very carefully snipped in there and pull the two wires apart when we're working on them. We're then going to use some wire strippers. These are wire strippers. You can also cut on that edge, but this part here, if you look there, you can probably just see the stripper part. And we're going to take off about, I don't know, about a centimetre, just under a centimetre of the insulation. So we just pinch it up, pull it off, and then immediately we need to twist those strands, because this is multi-strand wire. And if you can see there, it's very, very fine strands. That makes it flexible, but we need those all together because they need to go through quite a small hole on the circuit board. So each end we're going to take off those and twist. What we're going to do that now is to keep those twisted up and to make this into a fine pin, because this pin, we're going to put our black cable through there, and we're going to solder that just there onto that pad once it's gone through the hole. But we need to add solder to these, and we're going to coat these in solder. Now the process of coating in solder is called tinning. We're going to take our soldering iron. We can see that we've made sure that the tip of the soldering iron is quite clean. On our sponge here, we've just moistened that. We put some water on it, and the sponge is now damp. And I don't know if you can see that, but when you put it on the sponge, you get a little bit of steam, and we get a nice, clean tip of the soldering iron. So I can now just add, and take a piece of solder here, and I'm just going to add some solder to the tip of the soldering iron. Then I can coat each of these wires in solder. What you might like to do is just add a piece of solder, and what we're looking for is the solder should run by capillary action in. We don't want a big blob. I don't know if you saw that blob there. We don't want a blob of solder on there. We just want a nice thin coating. If we make it too thick, the holes won't, the cables won't fit through the holes in the printed circuit board. So there's our process of tinning. I think you can see that. If you look at that, you should be able to see that they are now coated in solder. And we're going to try and fit these through the hole in the circuit board and onto our pad where we looked at earlier with the screen print. So we're going to feed these two wires through, pull them through from underneath, from the pad side. We can see there's a little chip there as well. It's probably handy to rotate them around. Pull through more than you need, and then push each of the wires that you've tinned through the hole. The black is going to be our negative. I'm going to push that through, and the grey is going to be our positive. So I've pushed that through, and I just bend it over to stop it popping out. Now I need to solder my cable to my circuit board. So what I'm going to do there is take a piece of solder, take the soldering iron. It's much better for you to do this on the board, but I'm holding this up so you can see. Hold the circuit board, I've got too much solder there now, onto the pad. I kind of messed that up now. What we need to do is hold it, take the excess solder off, hold it on. I think I should have done this on the... There, got it in the end. That's actually slightly too much solder there, but I don't know if you can see that. And then we can take our side cutters and trim that off. The next wire I'm going to twist up. I'm going to put a bit more, make sure it's tinned because I don't think it was tinned properly here. I'm going to put that through the hole. I'm going to bend it over, clean my soldering iron, hold the soldering iron onto the circuit board. That's much better there. I think trying to do it holding it up wasn't very successful. So that the process there is that you hold the soldering iron onto the pad, you feed in the solder, and you can see there that that's much more successful. And then what I can do now, we've got our strain relief hole there that's you can see it's quite hard to pull that, it's not going to pull off, but we can just pull it through. It's actually pulling off a bit of the cable insulation, and then that is a really good grip there. That's not going to pull the wires off, that's attached by the insulation to the board. We've got our positive and negative soldered on there, and we've got our cable ready to go onto our speaker.